Hey guys, welcome to today's video. This is going to be a quick version, and this is Paint with Lovejoy. Thanks so much for joining. Please subscribe to the channel and share this channel with your community. Like I said earlier, this is going to be a quick version, so if you prefer the full-length, non-time-lapsed version, check out my Patreon page and my Paint with Lovejoy website. If you want to further support Paint with Lovejoy, please do. It all helps. And for more in-depth courses, check out paintwithlovejoy.com. And as always, share this with your community. All right, guys, this is going to be a fun butterfly painting today, and we will have the potential to use a untraditional tool, a palette knife. So grab your supplies, transfer your traceable to your surface, and as always, make sure you take your progress photos. Now, if you don't have a palette knife, you can do the exact same thing with a brush. You just won't get the same texture. And I use a palette knife in my work, so that's why I'm giving you guys exposure to it as well. So I'm using kind of more of a smaller palette knife. There are various sizes, so whatever you might have, feel free to do that. And I'm doing the scraping method. So I grabbed the green color, and we're going to be going all around the perimeter of the butterfly. Now, like I said earlier, if you have a different shaped knife, feel free to use that. If you don't have a knife at all, you can use an old credit card or even something that's just like a strong, rigid piece of plastic to do this scraping method. Or if you prefer to do this with a brush, you can paint this green on with a brush, and you can also do the next color that we'll be doing, yellow, with a brush as well. So palette knife is just optional. The scraping method is rather therapeutic. So if you are stressed out about anything, this application method is quite stress relieving, and you usually enjoy the process. So you can scrape out your frustrations. Now, this particular video, I did it as a live demo during the pandemic. So I was answering questions on the chat and live, and I did have a few things that happened in other videos. It was a lot of fun. So I'm actually just going back through these. They are in a time lapse, and I'm also giving the cues for the colors that I'm using up in the top right-hand corner. So if you prefer the full length, I think it was like a 40-minute video, feel free to go to my Paint with Lovejoy YouTube page and look under the live demos. I only did them for that first summer of the pandemic, just to kind of give everybody an outlet and something to do. So now I've grabbed the yellow, scraping directly right on top of that green, and you can see that it is changing colors once I scrape it on there. The green and the yellow are mixing. So feel free to do this with a brush, do this with the knife, and feel free to rotate the canvas if you need to make some of these scraping areas a little bit easier for you. I keep this in the same orientation just because I was filming the video and it was originally a live demo. All right, and I have noticed that butterflies are quite popular on my channel, so I do hope you guys enjoy this one, whether you use the knife or the brush. I just want you guys to keep painting and enjoy the process. All right, so good place. We're gonna move into the next step, and we will be switching back to a brush from here on out. So we're gonna make a light blue, and that is white with a little bit of blue. So at any point, feel free to pause the video, take your progress photo, or just pause it so you can go at your own pace. Like I said, this is a time-lapse version. You do not have to keep up. So with this light blue, I'm using the small pointy brush. You can use the medium flat brush, and we're placing this light blue in a few specific areas for this peacock butterfly. And if you feel like switching out colors on everything today, or just one part or a few parts, feel free to switch out colors and make this painting your own. All right, doing great. If you are a beginner painter, take a deep breath, relax. I am very proud of you for stepping out of your comfort zone and getting creative. So here you can see we made a medium blue, a little bit darker, and adding it on top of the lighter blue. Now we're going to move into making our kind of reddish orange. So we are going to start with that orange first and then add a little bit of red to it. A little bit of red's actually going to go a long way to make what we call a burnt orange. So I'm going to keep mine a little closer to the orange side, but if yours happens to go a little bit more on the red side or a different color, totally okay. All right, and if you have to mix this color a second or third time, if there's a little variety in there, that's okay as well. It's more important to just actually paint and go through the process, because each time that you paint, you're going to learn something new And then when you go to paint the next time, you're going to take your skills from today's painting into next time's painting, and basically so on and so forth. You're going to constantly just kind of keep building on your skills and your comfort level. Now we're going to be putting this burnt orange on pretty much all of the wings, and then we'll be coming in and filling up other detailed spaces. So again, remember to breathe. I am using student grade paint. It is a bit on the transparent side. And if you happen to have the same thing, you can do two things. Here, I'm actually applying it a little bit thicker, and that gives me a bit more opaque coverage. Or apply one layer, let it dry, and then you can apply another layer after that, and that gives you more opaque coverage. And some of my videos, I do the double coverage, so you can actually kind of see what it looks like. Or, like I said, I encourage you to do it at home. Adjust your painting based on the tools that you have. And again, utilize the tools that you have. So don't feel like you have to go buy brand new art supplies. If you have colored pencils, you can do this with colored pencils. If you have watercolors, do this with watercolors. Like I said earlier, it's more important to just paint rather than being perfect. So here you can see we grabbed some of the red. We're putting some details on top of the orange and just kind of using the width of the brush as we go along. And then you're going to wipe off that brush, and then we'll go back with light pressure and kind of squish or blend this red into the burnt orange. And if you happen to lose the color, if you end up moving your brush too much and blend it away, just reapply the red and move your brush on top of it, but just a few less brush strokes. The more that you paint, the more comfortable you'll get with the concept of what we call wet on wet blending, and that's what this is, and getting comfortable with like the pigment and the saturation. So right now, be kind to yourself if you are in your beginning stages. Remember to breathe and just have fun. I do consider a lot of my classes adult kindergarten, just because I teach so many adults that have never painted before or that enjoyed painting when they were a kid, but never kept it into their adult life. All right, so now we're going to move into some raw sienna and burnt sienna, and we'll do kind of a 1-to-1 ratio mixture of that. And we're going to fill in the body of this butterfly as well as some of the other areas. And this is a nice kind of grounding color, earthy color with that burnt orange. All right, and we're gonna fill that in and then fill the space on the wings in. If your orange is still a little bit wet, you can do a little bit of blending. If it happens to be dry, that's okay. That's where you're at for today. There we go, and filling in the tops of the wings. And again, take notice, because this paint is a bit on the transparent side, notice that every couple of brush strokes, I am going back and grabbing more paint to be able to reapply it to the canvas. All right, getting into those last little details on the wings, filling in the space. This is coming together nicely. There we go. And again, please don't paint as fast as the video. Pause it as needed and go at your own pace. So now we're going to do a little bit of shading. We're going to grab the darker of the two, the burnt sienna. And again, we're going to place it in a few specific areas on the butterfly. Then we'll wipe off that brush. And then with light pressure, you can blend it into the base color. And again, if you are finding that your brush is shaky as you're going to do this, that does mean you're holding your breath. So if you exhale as you touch the brush to the canvas, that will be of benefit to you and make it a little bit easier. All right, and sometimes if you even want to use your finger to blend, sometimes in the beginning stages of painting, that's a rather therapeutic thing to do and real tactile. And I do usually encourage people to finger paint. It's a lot of fun and it takes you back to being a kid. So now we're going a little bit darker. We're going to take that burnt sienna with a little bit of black, and a tiny amount of black will go a long way to make that burnt sienna a little bit darker. And same thing, we're going to place this in a few specific areas, and then you can wipe off that brush and then blend it in. Again, this does not have to be perfect, and what you are learning today, the next time that you paint, you're going to be taking those skills into that painting. Again, just kind of observe where I'm placing each of these colors and mimic that to the best of your ability at home, with permission to change and deviate and do something different. I want you to have fun, and I want you to bring your own voice to your own painting. All right, so now we're going to move into a light raw sienna that's going to be white with a tiny amount of raw sienna. It is rather light. Um, and this is going to be what we consider a highlight value on a few of the areas, and we'll put this on top of the body a little bit. So kind of going around the perimeter of each of those peacock eyes on the wings. And then when we move into doing the outlines with the black, it's going to give us some nice contrast and kind of clean up some of the edges of this butterfly. All right, guys are doing great. Remember to breathe. Here we go, getting some of the highlights on the body of the butterfly. This is taking shape nicely. All right, and a good place to pause the video. You do want to let everything dry before we move into black paint. It'll just make it a little bit easier for you. And while you're waiting for it to dry, I do recommend that you prop your painting up and look at it from a distance of 5 to 10 feet away. That is the normal viewing distance for most things in life, and especially for artwork. So now we're grabbing the pointy brush, black paint. We're going to outline. And because this was a demo, I was demonstrating kind of the pressure of the brush a moment ago while I was explaining something else. But as you're playing with the brush, treat it like a pencil, so that way you can keep kind of a skinnier line. And then if a little bit more pressure comes into play, then you have a bit of a wider line. And if you are shaky, that does mean you're holding your breath. So exhale as you touch the brush to the canvas. And that's going to make this process a little bit easier. You can also rest your forearm against the edge of the table. That gives you a nice kind of steady pivot point. Or you can put your pinky out and put that on the table or the canvas, and that's going to give you your kind of steady pivot point. And then also every couple of brush strokes, go back, grab more paint. So that way you're actually applying it as you're getting into this nice groove. If you need to turn the canvas sideways or upside down, feel free to do that. Whatever you need to do to make this process comfortable for you. And the more that you do it, the more comfortable you're going to get with your tools, the more comfortable your muscles are going to get with the pressure of holding the brush, the more comfortable your brain's going to get with, okay, if I mix this much pigment with this much pigment, this is the color I get. So be kind to yourself. It's kind of like learning how to ride a bike. You weren't perfect from the get-go. Just like painting, you're not going to be perfect from the get-go. But as you train your eye and get better and more comfortable with your skills, your growth gets even cooler and more comfortable. Another reason why I encourage that you take your progress photos. It's a visual documentation of your learning curve. And after you've painted for a couple of years, I recommend that you go back and look at your first couple of paintings. All right, so here on the wings, we're actually making the extended part of the wings thicker. So this part is going over the background and giving that nice, real pretty extra details and extra density, really, and length to the butterfly when we extend the wings. And then going back to that bottom wing, adding more details in for the peacock eye on the butterfly, on the wing, and then going back to outlining. And again, you're just mimicking what you, to the best of your ability, what you see on screen. But if you happen to turn this into a swallowtail butterfly with some extra little things on the bottom wings, just embrace it. Maybe you just created a new species of butterfly, or you're changing colors to match your room, or just kind of making this your own unique butterfly. Go right ahead and do that. I am proud of you guys for taking time out of your day to paint. I encourage all of my students to find regular creative outlets for themselves. You may stress about your painting, but that is an appropriate stress while you are painting, because hopefully while you are painting, you are so focused on your painting that you do forget about the rest of your world for a little bit. And that is one of the positive aspects of the painting process. All right, so finishing that last wing, getting those details in there. A little bit of brush maintenance. If you're realizing that your brush strokes are getting wider and wider, take a look at your brush. If you've got a lot of buildup on your brush where the metal and the bristles meet, wipe off all that excess paint, maybe clean the brush, and then go back and grab your black paint and continue to apply. So just something to kind of keep in mind. All right, and here we go. We're gonna get the antenna and a few other little details on this guy. but it's looking really good. I am proud of you guys. If you want to add anything extra, I think when I did teach this, somebody named their butterfly and put the name on the butterfly. But again, feel free to just kind of do whatever you want. Now we're going into yellow, putting a few highlights and some more details on there. A bit more of a contrasting kind of pop color. Again, you can mimic what I'm doing or do your own thing. All right, doing great. This is coming along nicely. We are in the home stretch of the painting today. And our last color is going to be some white. If you want, you can make it a super, super light blue, or you can do white, but just for some of these last little details and dots on the butterfly. All right. And again, as we're playing with that white, trust your instincts. You can use where I put it as a guideline, but these are just kind of a few little highlights. And I also like to do a little bit of the outlining of the wings. It just breaks up that space, and it also gives a little hint of movement. So again, feel free to do what I do or do your own thing. All right, so while that concludes, I just want to say thanks again for hanging out with me for a little bit. Please do not wait too long to do your next painting because you're just going to keep growing your skills. And if you have any questions, please send me an email. And then please send me pictures of your final paintings. Send them through email, paintwithlovejoy@gmail.com, or tag me in social media, Paint with Lovejoy. So this brings us to the conclusion of today's painting. Thank you guys so much. Have a great day, and please don't wait too long to do your next painting. Until then, cheers.